All right, here we go. This is the Airmech Carry Me #2 tournament. We have Pavement Man and Happy Death on the left-hand side, and Osprey and Saucer. Happy Death already taking a little bit too much damage and hot-footing it out of there. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, we have Frexion and k4rs. A little bit unheard of, but hey, this Teen Angst will see them through. So we have Counter-Strike versus Teen Angst in this finals match. Now this is game one. This is a best of three. Frexion trying to do a little bit of harass, taking out one of the infantry that is going to slow this red team down. So Carbon does have a little bit of a time advantage. They're able to drop this second post. Happy Death and Pavement Man have not been able to capture anything just yet, but they're getting there. Locking down that first post, moving on to the second one. Happy Death, being the Osprey, is able to keep these tanks popped up, and they don't actually need to stop and heal anything. They don't have to do any double backs. Now Frexion once again scouting, see if he can take any casualties, focusing especially on infantry, but unfortunately both Happy Death and Pave had their own infantry in queue. They knew this was coming, so they built their own. So unfortunately that harassment gets shut down. k4rs and Pave immediately leapfrogging up. k4rs with the Osprey going to be able to keep his tanks healed up to full health, even despite taking a little bit of damage there. So looks like this is going to be a straight match. Now, unfortunately, one of them is dropping all of their tanks backwards. That means they're going to take double damage pretty much from everything that they're moving up to. The direction of your mouse cursor affects where the units drop and what direction they're facing. So, you know, if you do regularly just leave your mouse over to the side absentmindedly, you can actually misposition your units all over the place. So k4rs looks like he's going to go ahead and reposition a lot of these tanks, get them within range. Frexion doing as much distract as possible with that striker sword, but Happy Death so good, not losing any tanks there with that heal. k4rs meanwhile, so this is a pretty close mid-fight right now. No one is losing anything because of that double Osprey, but unfortunately Tesla Tower going down for red, so Frexion gets tagged, can't lift off, can't move. Are they going to be able to snipe some units here and there? Striker generally tends to be a pretty good mech choice, but Happy Death is just on top of this. He's not going to let himself lose anything, so neither team has too much at stake here. The upkeeps are pretty even. Looks like Carbon has a generator here, so k4rs is a little bit more mobile. He's allowed to stay out for a little bit longer. Happy Death might actually get overpowered here a little bit, but looks like k4rs needs to land and maybe heal. You tend to be having a faster heal rate if you are on the ground when you heal. So k4rs is unable to really top these off as fast as he might otherwise want to. So he's actually starting to lose some tanks. He's lost 2. Is not a whole lot. He has not lost this game by any means, but he is starting to get pushed out of here. Lost a 3rd. And these turrets, these are not T99s. These are T45s. These are the weakest turret in the game. But just the fact that they're Happy Death turrets, that's what makes them scary. Because they've got an overshield on every single one of these. So k4rs has a couple of overshield, but they're just doing so much damage. k4rs is finding that he's getting out DPS. That these Ospreys are fairly low level right now, so they can't really do the uber bulk heal, keep everything topped off regardless of damage input. They'll need a lot more. So Frexion has redistributed some of his attention to the top. They're starting to lose their footing in the bottom, but k4rs, now that he's a little closer to his post, might be able to hold on pretty well here. So Frexion trying to open up a new front, see what can't be done. Maybe pick out a couple units if he can, but Happy Death is just so good. Even with the things that he can't heal, he immediately drops something in front of it to absorb the fire. Any units that are hurt, he drops to the back line. Red finally losing 1 or 2 tanks. Pavement Man whipping out the Death Ray, but he's a saucer. He's kind of a glass cannon. He can't do that sort of thing casually. So definitely not a show me yours, I'll show you mine sort of deal. Frexion is able to capture the top outpost, but it's just him versus Happy Death here. Now, Happy Death has lots of turrets. Those T99s, these are now the bigger brother of the T45. Those are going to be pretty good. k4rs comes in, gets some heals, so actually Carbon Team has the advantage here. Happy Death might get taken out. Well, but Frexion's not in the air, not getting that air-to-air fire, so Happy Death probably going to start pushing this bottom now that Carbon is more focused on the top. So Interesting. Just getting some anti-air behind the scenes, putting a couple jumpers on T so they can just distract and head those out. So Happy Death not able to get a whole lot done right there. Carbon Team with a solid hold on this top post, taking out one of the turrets, taking out the other turret. Carbon Team with a firm advantage in this game now. Happy Death trying to even that out a little bit. He's been pulling the lock boxes. They come up every 2 minutes, so he pulled one. He's got that on his own socket, just kind of sitting quietly. They do get more valuable over time. If you can wait to sell them, they will be worth more than the default 6,000. So Pave running in with that Death Ray, Happy Death pocketing him, keeping him healed up. That way they can do a little bit more damage to these carbon units. And so all k4rs has to do here is hold on, and they will be able to eventually get a strong lead. They've got a small upkeep advantage right now. They've got a pretty good upkeep cap advantage of about 20 units. Neither team really coming out with whoppers just yet. Frexion almost getting killed by that anti-air, but fortunately does drop back. There's heavy mines on the ledge, so red can't really push in the way that they might otherwise want to push. Now what we find is that red team has a lot of turrets. T99s left and right. That's very heavy duty turrets, but we're finding that red team, no generator. So Happy Death is out of energy and has to keep retreating, and now that they're so far away from their post, that's really inconvenient. He can't afford to spend that much time away from his army, especially not when k4rs is here actively microing against him. So Pave trying to get a little bit more damage in there, trying to do a little bit more of that micro, but Frexion is nowhere to be seen. He's going to be picking off units of his own. He's got the Blade Guardians, and if he can pick off a Dillo here, a Dillo there, he's going to gradually increase this lead that the Carbon Team is feeling, and eventually, once there's not enough units, he's just going to push in with a giant Death Train and take this top outpost right under their nose. Or potentially come in with some lighter units and snake this outpost, since all the red units down low are nowhere near the outpost anymore. So that would be a fairly easy pull for the Carbon Team. So Teen Angst has definitely got a lot going for them. Able to hold their own against Happy Death, who has... Oh, Frexion getting taken down by the air-to-air fire, just getting a little bit too brave with that push. Happy Death is going to try and take advantage of this, drop something somewhere, so long as there's not a striker to try and micro against him. So he's going to go straight to that close post, keep those brutes healed up. He really needs some more infantry from Pave, man, though, because right now this is only 3 infantry, so it's not going to be able to make it. So Pave comes in, but did not bring any infantry. So Carbon's brute is the one that's in here. Frexion's going to be able to take out one brute, might be able to take out the other depending on the heals. And k4rs finally swoops in with a couple of support units as well. So not much has happened or changed over here. You've got enough healing units for both sides that the Osprey is not absolutely necessary for this to do nothing. So Carbon Team's got a pretty strong advantage. They just need to push that advantage while they can. So far in this tournament, Happy Death has crushed all competition at even the slightest opening, so they really need to be on their guard here. Happy Death going to drop a pepper as well, but it doesn't have quite enough range. Maybe an Archie would be better placed on that particular ledge. That's a hard place to really spot units at. Trying to abuse Tesla towers on the low ground, but these sandbags are preventing a line of sight, so the Tesla tower will not actually start shooting anything on the high ground. That was a common way to abuse Tesla towers before their line of sight problems were fixed. So now Tesla tower actually needs to be a little bit higher, a little bit closer to actually be putting any damage into this clump. So Happy Death trying to just make the most out of that pepper. If he puts it attacking the fort, that's actually going to be a pretty decent chunk of damage. Let's see how much it does. Actually, yeah, that's pretty good. Carbon Team is unit capped now, so they need to push or they will get pushed. Since they can't build anything anymore, Happy Death is going to exploit every chink in their armor that he can find. So really, they need to... This army can't really push forward. There's a lot of repair units, but the presence of the mechs is the main thing that's shutting it down. Pave is going to keep that from doing a whole lot. Really, this is the army that is on them to move. And now that there's a lot of T-45s on the cliffs, it's going to be hard to shove through. Likewise, heavy mines going down. Best thing to do in this case will be to take this army and move south. and they could either move under the bridge or across middle, and they could attack this outpost or this unit clump from behind. That would really be in their best advantage. So if they just came straight directly south, they would be able to rejoin both of their armies back into one force. Frexion getting taken out by the abundance of T-99s. That's two turrets right here, and a Seeker and a Tesla tower, preventing him from taking off if he ever gets tagged by those. So both of the red team players immediately capitalizing on that, drop as many infantry as they can. And when I say they, I mean Happy Death dropping 3 brutes. Pavement Man still needs to bring infantry. Had he brought a single infantry of any kind, or if he were to use his ultimate or something, they would have enough infantry to capture this post and potentially win the game pretty much right here, because Carbon can't get anything over here to contest this. But they do not have enough infantry, so Carbon will take that. Frexion will take down Pave again. Happy Death still with the onesie-twosie drops, just trying to be annoying. Just send something to attack the fort, assuming that there's no defense, but there are still a couple Carbon units left over here, and there is a lunchbox for the Carbon team, so that Jackal will not end up doing anything. Happy Death doing a good job here and getting multiple peppers as well, just spewing in missiles into this clump of Carbon units. Cars will eventually get overpowered here. Really, Carbon needs to use this army they have in the north side. The unit upkeep advantage, that 30 to 30 advantage, does not benefit you if you do not have those units in a fight. So they really need to get those involved, because this is going to get overwhelmed. Locally, Happy Death has more stuff here. Cars is credit capped. I mean, you have 99,000 credits, 66,000 credits. Their army is disposable. All they have to do is lose units, and they can rebuild anything that they lose, no problem. So that's really all they need to do, is use their army, and they're finding themselves intimidated and pressed back into not being active on the map. Cars, this energy is gone on this outpost. Their generator's not fast enough to keep them both healed, so there's all this missile spewing in is depleting their reserves, and they're unable to keep everything topped off. Carbon needs to make a move, and they need to make it soon. So excellent move by Frexion, clearing out all of the heavy mines with a couple of zippers. Happy Death trying to drop a couple of heavy mines immediately in response to that, knowing that they're all cleared out, knowing that Frexion's going to be a little braver here. Frexion going to move a couple more zippers, but there aren't any extra mines yet, so that's really not going to do the purpose he wants it to. But that does keep Happy Death indisposed at the top of the map, so Red Team is remarkably sustainable here, despite having no generators present. So Pave isn't using Death Ray, isn't using Abduct, is just sitting here using Saucer default ground fire. Okay, why not? But these peppers are just spewing missiles in and damaging all of these things. Carbon is losing units. They really need to use their army in some respect. Happy Death just doing another small onesie-twosie drop on the fort to be as annoying as possible. When Frexion takes off, Happy Death lands. When Frexion lands, Happy Death takes off. So because Carbon can't build any units in response, that's actually surprisingly effective. Frexion cannot build anything to counter this. And they're going to lose all of their units up here if they're not careful. And so now that K4rs is gone, now that the Osprey heal is gone, we see that advantage starting to dwindle away, that they've let themselves be overcome. Happy Death finally getting killed by Frexion. Really need to do something with this top army, because Pave is just going to sit here and continue shooting your stuff until there isn't any stuff left to shoot. So Frexion pushing out with a couple of zippers again, clearing out some heavy mines. Happy Death a little bit better on the mine placement now, so this isn't going to get detonated by the onesie-twosie zipper. This is going to get tagged if you have a large clump of units running through. Don't really know why he's clearing the mines if he has no intention of pushing, though. Getting tagged by the Tesla tower, Frexion unable to lift off, but getting a level up is able to survive. But now the outpost is neutral. Red Team is going to sweep on in. Heavy mines go down, so Carbon can't even reposition to try and defend this, even if they start getting the upper hand again. And so red team is going to wrest this outpost from their control. Frexion finally deciding to move, didn't send those zippers to clear those last two heavy mines. Doesn't lose his tanks, but moves them forward. But there's a massive concave here. Really needs to go this way over to the right-hand side. So ultimately, this push is probably going to get stopped as well. So Pave pushing in on the bottom, Happy Death giving him a little bit of help. Just keeping it neutral is really all they need to do. Carbon team cannot build. They are both almost credit capped. Pavement Man, credit capped. Happy Death, 45,000 credits. Neither team can build anything until now. So red team captures the post. Pave is just going to go hog wild, abduct everything here because there's no anti-air present. And so red team has now got a firm advantage. Now, maybe Carbon can get some action done over here. But now their push is stopped again. The generator is going to prevent their units from moving. It's a little bit of bad positioning, and they're funneled through this tight choke point here. Whereas Happy Death, true to form, has all of his stuff really widely spread out. So even though red team is still outnumbered, they just have so many guns in so many places, and it's hard to just get that firm slap down and overcome that. Now Frexion and k4rs do find the weak joint. They find this outpost, which has not got a whole lot of defenses on it. They quickly neutralize it, quickly take it. They got 4 brutes, so they should be able to capture this no problem. So we got a tit for tat, red team versus Carbon team. Red team's all turrets, so they shouldn't be able to move on anything. k4rs and Pavement Man might be able to wrest this forward. Happy Death immediately redirecting all his units to the south and trying to take that. Frexion needs to push in while this lane is open, but not realizing that this is that opportunity. Might actually lose control of this outpost. Now k4rs is dumping units out, is healing as hard as his little heart can, but Frexion is starting to get overwhelmed here. They've lost the energy on the outpost. They're taking more air damage. They don't have enough units to sustain. So, and then Pave is pulling a lot of these turrets from that forward outpost and spewing missiles back. Really, they need this army in the top, but they're not using it. Ugh, it's frustrating. So red team does manage to claw that back. That was a grand opportunity for Carbon. Unfortunately squandered a little bit. Now Pave is a saucer. He can abduct things when there's not anti-air there or there's not a striker there. So he's going to steal all these dillos, steal these whoppers, and just overall be an annoying saucer. And waste a lot of Frexion's time trying to deal with it. And because they own this forward outpost, it's going to be hard to stop. So Frexion and k4rs are trying to get a little aggressive here, trying to poke the fort a little bit, but they're dropping a saucer. So these gangsters are actually going to go to the red team, unfortunately. We might actually see a Goliath abduct as well. And we've still got a pretty large Carbon army not doing anything. Red finally has an upkeep advantage, finally has an upkeep cap advantage. Carbon needs to use their forces now or they are going to lose. Because they really need to get that army out there. It's the only thing they have. And so Frexion probably going to get taken out here. There's a socketed hat. Just tons of anti-air damage, multiple socketed hats, so both k4rs and Frexion go down. They were trying to Goliath drop the fort. That might be a misallocation of resources, because since Happy Death and Pave are so spread out, they really could have gone any number of places and had pretty good odds in taking it. But when they just drop onesie-twosie units against Saucer, Osprey, and now 5 socketed hats, good God, that's just disgusting. No fort dropping is going to commence for the rest of this game. And if k4rs or Frexion even attempts to drop the fort, they are going to get rapidly executed by that line of hats. Frexion trying to neutralize this close outpost, but you've got a socketed turret with an Osprey healing it. It heals itself, and it's got the Osprey, and it does double damage because it's on the socket. So that turret is not going to go down. That is a hard point. And you're dropping light units to try and kill it. So Gangster's not going to be the counter there. So Carbon team is seeing this game start to slip through their fingers. A couple of things starting to get dropped. The creep accumulation is starting to finally do damage to this Carbon clump. That army is starting to go down. Carbon's credits, they're still pretty high, even though they're not unit capped anymore. Maybe they're just so used to not being able to build that they just forgot. But they can churn out units now. They have a disposable army still because they have so much money. I mean, Pave, 99,000 credits. Cars with 72,000 credits. Think of all the tanks you could build. Think of all the zippers you could build. Think of all the stuff that you could build. So Happy Death is going to continue the leapfrog, pressing forward with a couple of jackals for distract. Really, he is focusing on neutralizing this base, gets the neutralized. Now this is going to be an easy cleanup operation, because now Carbon has a very long supply chain. They don't have easy access to heals. Pave is going to just sit here and abduct whatever he can. And then because Carbon Team can't heal, that air-to-air fire and anti-air fire from the ground is going to eventually stack up and kill these Carbon players. I mean, Red Team, this is really their game to throw at this point. Happy Death dropping a couple more jackals just to be annoying. Keeps them healed because there's a couple of anti-lights here. And then Pave comes down as well, drops another unit. So it would appear that they're talking to each other and coordinating in some way to do these fort drops together. A little bit of voice is actually very helpful when you are trying to coordinate. Carbon Team, now that they've lost that top middle post, they are unit capped. They can't build anymore, which is going to be unfortunate. So Red, so long as they can keep that top outpost neutral, they're going to have a massive advantage. Happy Death definitely with a penchant for building turrets and Gorgons is going to start leapfrogging again towards that north side. I need to see Frexion get wiped out here, because you're talking about multiple socketed hats. So he picked off the lunchbox, and that's really all you're ever going to get when you try to drop that red fort right now. So many socketed turrets all over the place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 socketed hats. And more Gorgons and hats spaced all across the map. So Pave going to continue with this fort dropping. Figuring, might as well. Happy Death's got everything else anyway. So Happy Death is pushing forward. He doesn't have much of an army. Really anywhere. Everything's spread out. I mean, they've got 5 turrets at the fort. That's what, 3, 4 upkeep apiece? So that's at least 12 upkeep, but probably more like 20 upkeep, all in those socketed turrets. So really, Carbon is not as far behind as it would seem if they can just get some units out. So they've got to keep finding places, keep finding ways to neutralize posts. If they can capture any of this ground, even briefly, they can definitely swing this game back. But that lack of ground control is definitely going to be the end game factor for them, in that they just can't build units. So Pave saving his Goliath, going to continue to pump in more fort damage, but gets killed along the way due to that focus fire from the air. Happy Death taking out a couple of tanks that got dropped near his fort. Still building T99, still building those turrets. T99's pretty good unit. Can't move, but he doesn't care. This should be interesting. Frexion trying to drop behind the fort. Hat. Ooh. In and out. That's beautiful. The fact that he managed to survive is pretty impressive in and of itself. But these fort drops from Pave are starting to get pretty annoying because he keeps taking out the lunchbox as well. So Carbon investing quite a bit just in trying to protect their fort from this repeated harass, when really half of these units pushed forward could easily knock out this forward outpost. That's a shame that they're not doing that. The Gorgon, meanwhile, you cannot block Gorgon fire, so he gets tagged by the Buster in the air, one of these two, and the Gorgon finishes the job. Now, even though he's got superior firepower, those are tanks. Busters don't really mind. So sending in some more light units. Red's just flooding the plains here. Red's really spread out. They don't have a concentrated force really anywhere, and yet they're still able to keep Carbon on their toes like this. Pavement Man saying, you know what, I have 95,000 credits. Let's pull these neutral lockboxes and sell those for more cash. Yep. Yep, we definitely need the money. Socketing them so they're a little, maybe a little bit more valuable. Happy Death also has his own lockbox collection, but Happy Death is actually staying ahead of his bank. He is pumping out units regularly. If I'm going to pin the outcome of this game on any one factor, look at the credits. 43,000, 30,000, 99,000, 0. Less than 1,000, pretty much all game. As soon as he gets anything, the ability to build a unit, he churns one out. Happy Death has been building consistently all game. He doesn't care if he loses things. He can buy more. Whereas everyone else is really not building anything. Now, admittedly, Carbon Team's been unit capped, but if you are completely unit capped like that, you have to be more aggressive with your units. And playing defense when you've only got 2 outposts just isn't going to cut it. I couldn't find the nuke. I still can't find the nuke. Oh well. So there's nukes for both teams. Looks like the silo still standing for Carbon. Silo still up for Red. Red silo is very well defended, so they don't have to worry about that. So we have escalated to nuclear warfare. We've got a couple of red markers around. Pave dropping Tesla Tower. Okay. And then landing when he has less than 1/10 of his health left, and then scurries over the friendly post and gets killed. Sorry, unfriendly post. So outcome of this game, I think red. Red has got a firm lead here, if only because of the difference in unit use. Another nuke falling, that's probably this one. Will it kill the carbon silo? Nope, but it does kill the lunchbox, which is enough. More Gorgons, more Busters, more turrets. See, none of these units move. Frexion bravely trying to drop the fort again, but there's just way too many hats. You can't babysit those. You just can't. So Carbon losing their last outpost, still getting fort dropped by the saucer. They have multiple silos. So, but I mean, what are you going to drop a missile on? Literally, if you're the Carbon team and you could drop a missile anywhere on this map, maybe you could put one up here, but how much good is that going to do you? I mean, ultimately, Red doesn't have a lot of units. And the units that they do have are really spread out. I mean, missiles, bombs, they're not going to do a whole lot for you. Ultimately, you just need to get out on the map and capture some of these outposts as your own. Like, there's nothing here. One tank. You take this one tank and put it over here. Eventually, it's going to be your outpost. And then there needs to be a little bit better micro right here. They could take the Gorgon, use it as a meat shield or something along those lines. Where is their 49 upkeep? So it's mostly these Goliaths and Gorgons on this post, as well as a bunch of heavy mines towards the middle outpost as well. They've got at least 4 heavy mines right there. So it would be nice to see Carbon come back from this, but with the way this game is going, I'm just not thinking that's happening. So they had a really good position, but Happy Death and Pave just managed to wrestle that back. There were a couple of missed opportunities in this particular game, but ultimately, Happy Death pretty good at carrying people, pretty solid, pretty reliable. So they just need to do that last tick of damage. A single nuclear missile would be enough to put that down. Or you could just do a Goliath drop, you know, that works as well. So Happy Death just going to do it himself. Putting a couple of gangsters on attack, and he's going to sneak in with the Goliath right behind there. Pavement Man going to do the same thing. Just summon a few infantry, put them on attack. Probably just shoot the fort himself. He's dropped a nuke as well, so this is GG. But this is game 1 of the finals. They will have another opportunity.